Thank you for downloading from Digital Mindfulness. This is episode number 39. Welcome to the show. My guest this week is the founder and CEO of Will.com, Burton. Joe's the former president of Headspace and now heads up Will.com, a digital mindfulness training platform to help people live healthier, happier, and more engaged lives. Joe spent 15 years as a global C-level executive, running some of the world's largest advertising agency networks. He discovered mindfulness as a super stressed executive after dismissing it as a definitely not for me thing, and it absolutely changed his life. Stay tuned until the end of the show, where you'll have the chance to get free access to Will's mindfulness products for free. I hope you enjoy this episode with Joe Burton. So, Joe, welcome to Digital Mindfulness. Thank you so much for giving us some time today, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your views about mindful business and technology, and also about your story. So, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Lawrence. It's my pleasure.
So, Joe, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What's your journey to be working on mindful technologies, as it were?
Yeah. So my journey to mindfulness was sort of one of kicking and screaming. So I'm a stressed out type A corporate person. I spent most of my career in the public company space, and I think my story is like so many others, where I spent so much time focused on success and being a driven professional that over the course of time, I had this amazing career experience where I got to travel around the world. I became the global COO of a very large division of a public company, and my career was sort of on the up. And I spent most of my time, chasing money and stock and bonuses and the typical indicators of success. And when I turned about 40, what I saw in myself is what we were experiencing in our company, and that is with our employees around the world, we were seeing people burn out from stress, anxiety, depression, pharmaceutical usage, et cetera. And then for myself, I worked 12 hours a day. I tended to travel about 70% of the time, and all at once it kind of snuck up on me where I developed insomnia, I developed asthma, my back went out 3 times in a year. It took me about 5 years to recover from that. And then I also had things going on in my personal life that kind of caught up with me. And so I grew up the youngest of 6 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my father was an unemployable alcoholic. And so at a very young age, we had like the stress and anxiety that goes along with that kind of home environment. And we also had exposure to drugs and alcohol at very early stages. And so we had a lot of drug and alcohol addiction in my family. And so when I turned 40, here I am, the global COO of an advertising agency, having all this wonderful success. And at the same time, I was having all these health issues. I lost one of my older sisters to drug abuse. She died of a heart attack at 45. And then within 2 years, I lost my twin sister to suicide, and she had been a heroin addict for a long time, and both had been using drugs from very early ages. And so I found myself in sort of this life crisis of working around the clock, really driving myself for success that didn't really align with my personal values or interests. It was just sort of I was chasing money, and my personal life was unraveling both with respect to my health as well as emotionally, and dealing with the loss of 2 siblings. And so I came to mindfulness really as a last resort, and I needed the help. I wasn't planning on slowing down. I knew my body was giving out, but I really came to the conclusion of, wow, I need help. Okay, and so up until that point, I would have been one of those folks on the board that would have laughed someone out of the room for suggesting mindfulness or meditation, for our employees. And yet when I started to get into a practice myself, what I found was it helped with just a wide array of issues in my life, both personal from a health perspective, from a personal relationship perspective, from a performance and focus perspective.
So, so I guess coming back then to Will, I mean, how did Will get started? Because again, we were talking in a pre-interview, but you've also got experience prior to Will in terms of working in this space.
Yes, so I had the good fortune of being involved with Headspace for quite some time, and was the president of the company. And the focus there was really on serving individual consumers, and that opened up an interest in me in serving corporate communities. And so that's my background. That's where I come from. And uh, I think for me, getting into a mindfulness practice has really kicked off this mission of how can we get these practices out to help people before they reach crisis. Okay. And so for me, starting Will was very much about sort of going back to my roots of serving organizations. I've been in the technology space for quite some time, and building a product that not only helps the individual, but gives corporations what they're looking for. And so most companies, I joke with every customer we meet with is they're looking for faster, cheaper, right? They want increased productivity. They want to lower absenteeism. They want to lower healthcare costs. And I think starting the conversation, just recognizing, that as the elephant in the room, and saying, great, we recognize you need to get that. That's the state of modern business around the world. But we really need to focus on your individual employees, right? And so we're interested in improving things like focus and memory and healing time, cardiovascular systems, self-control, creativity, imagination. And we're interested in decreasing things like stress, anxiety, depression, insomnia, PTSD. And the science shows if the individual gets what they're looking for, the end result is the companies end up getting what they're looking for, right? So you can get the faster, cheaper, if you will, but the only way to do that is by giving employees the tools and the access to tools to help themselves to be healthier, happier, and more engaged in their day-to-day.
I mean, this this is great because I was having this conversation recently, and it doesn't sound that what you're trying to do is to have people become meditators. It sounds more like you're focused on the solution in terms of helping people get what they want, and that is to be healthier, to be less stressed, to have better cardiovascular health, and then by proxy, the company will do better because the employees are doing better.
I think so, and I think most people who haven't tried mindfulness or meditation practice, they come into the conversation with sort of these loaded notions of like, oh, incense and sandals and spirituality. And the truth is, when you get in and you understand the scientific benefits for health and focus and performance, it's much easier to digest, right? And for me, this whole notion of 5 or 10 minutes of mindfulness meditation practice a day isn't actually the focus of what you're trying to get, right? So the calm and clarity and focus that you can get in that 5 to 10 minutes is just the beginning. We're very interested in the other 24 hours of your day, okay? And so how do you take that that focus, calm, and clarity into all of your relationships, into all of your meetings, into your personal life, into relationships with your children or your partner, into your decision making, right? And how do you take those practices into the other areas that really affect your health and your mental well-being, like sleep, right? And not worrying about the past and not worrying about the future, but actually just being in the moment. And we think most people, when they discover, oh, it's about the whole day and basically a lifestyle or a way of being instead of sitting in silence, right? They're open to trying these practices.
Yeah. So let's talk about Will. Let's come on to Will. And so we've been talking, about meditation and kind of like how this works, but what exactly is Will? What is the Will platform, and what does it do, and why is it so important?
Well, first, let me just say it's amazing. So the Will platform is really for training digital mindfulness. And so we have a very collaborative model. We work with some of the best trainers in the world, and we've created 3 programs. The first one is called Now, and it's 550 sessions of mindfulness and about 100 sessions of yoga. And what we're doing is really trying to give people access to training mindfulness for exactly what they need in the moment. And so we've got a wide category and a search algorithm. We ask users, what is it you need help with in this moment, and that could be hard things like stress, anxiety, depression, insomnia, or it could be wonderful things like intimacy, sex, creativity, imagination. And we have mindfulness sessions that are a combination of video, where you learn about the science of what's happening in the mind and body, controlling your emotions, relaxing your central nervous system, etc., and the science behind that. And then you get into meditation practices that are all set in intention. So it's very much a tiered learning system. We introduce one topic a day. Those topics build on each other. There are usually 5 sessions in each series. So, for example, if you're practicing calming anxiety, you'll go through a couple of videos and 5 short sessions, 5 to 10 minutes each, that really give you a sense of what's happening in the mind and body, the triggers that create anxiety, right, in yourself, and how you can actually create triggers in other people, how to relax your central nervous system. And so when you go through those 5 sessions, you have a much better sense of the root causes, how anxiety works, and how to take control of it. Okay? Our second program is called Grow, and that's for teenagers. And that has 500 sessions, all about the modern teen experience. And so we interviewed over 200 teenagers about what stresses them out, what ruins their day, and what also gives them great joy, what makes them happy in life. And we've worked with Holistic Life Foundation and IBME. These are 2 of the leading organizations taking mindfulness into schools, and created this really vibrant experience for teens. So we've got a lot of vibrant illustration in the product. Once again, a mixture of video and audio, all around giving the teen exactly what they want in that moment. And that organization, the organization of that program, really focuses on things like self-awareness, emotions, relationships, sports and physical health, school, 1-minute meditations, and sleep training. Okay. And then our third program just launched a few weeks ago, and we're super excited about this. It's the famous Search Inside Yourself training that was originally created at Google. And the Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute has now taught at over 200 companies around the world. I think they've taught in over 20 countries now. And that program is specifically focused on leadership skills and emotional intelligence, and all set in the frame of mindfulness. So improving relationships, work, teamwork, collaboration, and creating better leaders with these kind of practices. So those are our 3 programs. They work through any computer or mobile device. And once again, we've kind of become famous for giving people exactly what they want to work on in the moment, recognizing that it changes every day, and it changes multiple times a day, depending upon if you had a good interaction with a coworker, or things are good or not good with your spouse or partner, depending on how, if you have children, as a parent, your day is measured by how unhappy your least happy child is. And so just trying to meet people where they are and give them practices in the moment, no matter where they are in life.
I think you said something earlier on, and I thought it was just like fantastic when you said that we're not so much interested in what you do sitting down for your meditation. We're more interested in the other 23 hours of your day, like how you interact. And I think that's really crucial, isn't it? Because I know that for any kind of practice, whether you're an athlete or, any kind of practice, it's not so much what you do in the moment when you're actually doing a practice. It's generally how you live your life and your attitude to the way you engage with the world and, and everything else. And I think that's a really excellent approach.
Thank you very much. Let me just write that down. Fantastic quote.
I'll send you
I like
the
this. Thank you.
I'll send you the clip.
Yeah. But I really feel that way. It's not really about practice, it's about game day. And you can be, even if you're the best meditator ever, and you could sit in silence for an hour, and then you went into your life and you didn't practice in your relationships, in your work, and actually create environments that are fun, better for yourself and others to be in, then what's the point? So it's really about, how can you take mindfulness as a lifestyle into what you do in your day to day?
And I know obviously the platform that you've developed there, it's very much data driven and the results are measurable. And I was wondering what some of the benefits a user will experience from using Will in the medium to long term.
Sure. So first, let me talk a little bit about the data. We give the individual user a dashboard, and that gives them about 20 points around their practice, right? So we encourage people to go through a full series to really get closer to whatever issues that they're practicing around. They see they're encouraged to do other training based on their interest, and so our search algorithm is almost like Netflix. It's like, because you like this, you're also you're probably also will like this other training. And so we want to keep people engaged. The vast majority of our users say, I just want to know what to do next, instead of having to look around and search and find. It's just sort of, here's what I'm dealing with, how much time I have. And, we give them 6 training options. The feedback we're getting from users, and this is consistent with the science behind mindfulness, is really that people are finding themselves less stressed, less anxious. They're learning for themselves how they actually create a lot of the drama in their own lives, right? They understand that what their triggers are that set them off. Our sleep training is based in iRest or Yoga Nidra, and so that's our number one. Our number one training is our sleep training. So people are reporting, I'm sleeping, for the first time in years. I'm getting great sleep, and so that's really wonderful. For teenagers, we're hearing a lot about how they're less angry. And our number one search for teenagers right now is, I'm angry, I want to be happier. And so when you've got tens of thousands of teenagers searching for common training at different countries around the world, I think there's a trend there about young people today and what they're dealing with. Our number one search for individuals, and our primary audience is professionals. So we deal a lot with folks in technology and the digital space, people who work in creative endeavors, engineers. We also have a lot of clients in sort of the old manufacturing, automobile, retail spaces as well. Our number one search there is, I'm overwhelmed, I want to relieve stress, right? In other words, the pace of living is pretty hard to keep up with. And anyone who has a mobile device knows mobile devices get better twice a year, right? But the brain doesn't. Like that, the human brain hasn't changed in about 3,000 years. So the pace of living today is no fun. I mean, it's constant. And I joke a lot with, we work with a lot of advertising agencies and production companies that do marketing. And, I'd like to joke with them and say, well, it sounds like your employees are suffering from your taglines. And they say, well, what does that mean? It's like, well, all your taglines are like, on demand, just do it, 24/7, any way you like it. And, that's great for pushing products. But when you're talking about like human beings, man, that kind of sucks, doesn't it? It's like, welcome to the company, we're on demand.
Suffering from your tagline, that's really amazing. And I think this is really interesting point to me. I think, like, would at Will, in addition to the platform, would you have a team as well that goes into organizations and work with things like say corporate culture? Because a lot of what you're talking about, like for example, people responding straight away to emails or answering every single call or working in noisy, stressful environments, a lot of this comes down to the particular culture within an organization. Is that something that you would deal with as well, or?
We talk to companies a lot about culture, and so when we launch a program with Will, we go in and we talk about what they're already doing, and so we don't recommend whether you're working with Will or thinking about bringing a live mindfulness program into your company. But we generally don't recommend introducing something new. In other words, introduce mindfulness to fit with what you're already doing. And so we have a number of our customers when we're talking with them, and they describe sort of the symptoms of the problems they're having. They really come back to culture. And so more and more organizations, unintentionally have toxic working environments. And when you think about that, it makes sense because they're under constant disruption, right? And so it doesn't matter where you are. Right now, someone's trying to steal your technology, right? The Chinese have sort of created a government institution around stealing technology around the world. Someone's trying to turn your business into a feature of their business. You've got 4 different generations of employees working together for the first time ever. And guess what? They don't like each other. They've got different language. They've got different expectations, different work ethics. And so it makes for a very interesting organization. But very few companies are stopping and saying, hey, look, we've got 5 or 10 things going on that all add up to disruption. And that creates a working environment that's not great for our employees. And so we offer these programs through our digital training platform. But we also love to collaborate with live training organizations like Search Inside Yourself, like Holistic Life Foundation, like IBME, where they go into organizations, they do live training, they create community. You have different departments coming together in ways to work together that they've never done before. You have people who have worked in the same organization for 5, 10, 20 years and who have never met or spoken. And so we love the live training. We do a lot of keynotes around mindfulness as a general topic and other areas like disruption, like safety, and so forth. And all of these things relate to, are people focused and in the moment when they're doing their job? Or are they, like most of us, stressed, anxious, and spending 50% of their time with their mind wandering, which was an interesting study that Harvard University put out 2 years ago. They concluded through some research, we all spend about 47% of our time with the mind wandering. And that makes people really unhappy, right? We worry about the past, we worry about the future, we speculate about porn, whatever it is, wherever the mind is wandering, it's not good for focus and cool, calm, collected professionals.
A lot of this, though, like learning how to cultivate the ability to harness our attention, like that's really a skill and something that we train over time. And I was wondering, with Will or in your experience, how long does it take for people to start seeing the benefits of getting into a regular focused practice?
Yeah. So I think some people start to see it immediately, particularly with something as basic as sleep training, where you have someone guiding you for, 20 minutes into sleep, which is a nice way of just letting go of thoughts. Other people, it takes about 2 to 3 months. And I know in my case, I was super stressed and, I was not open to these practices as a starting point. And so it took me about 3 months to really get into it and stop sort of fighting it and understand how mindfulness works. There's not a right or wrong way, but the sooner you learn to let go of feelings, let go of judgment, and let go of the things that we all create in our lives in terms of our thoughts, the easier it becomes. The big thing for me that really helped was really getting into the science of mindfulness and understanding how the brain works, how we're all preconditioned to think and remember about negative feelings. We're all preconditioned to take what happened and then add to it to make it worse in our memory, right, than it actually was. And we're all preconditioned to let go of good things. Like they don't last, they always end, and they're never as good in our memory as the bad things are in terms of how much we recollect and how often we ruminate and think about and revisit. And so the science was a big deal for me I started my career as a a CFO before I moved into becoming a COO. And so I'm a numbers driven person. I want the proof. I want the facts. It's one of the things that annoys the heck out of my wife. And, the science behind mindfulness, I think, is one of the biggest reasons that people have never thought about trying this or coming to it.
Oh, I mean, just to go back to that, you mentioned you were talking about the reason you started to talk about the reason why people are so stressed out. But I was really wondering if we can go into this a little bit more. Why do you think people I think specifically because you talked about teenagers as well a lot, but teens and professionals, people that use tech every single day and they're really heavily into the digitized world. Why do you think people are so stressed out, particularly now?
I think it comes down to a few factors. One is mobile devices have become such a key part of our lives that we use them for everything. And so while it's wonderful on one hand to think about global connectivity and always on and have the world at my fingertips, the truth is what comes through, in my experience anyway, is usually the bad stuff. Like when you're connected to everyone, it's kind of like they have access to you for the biggest problem. Something's wrong with the kids, something didn't go well at school, something blew up at work, someone's not happy. And I don't know about you, but I rarely get overwhelmed with messages saying like, man, I love it here. I love you. Everything's awesome. Life is good. Just wanted to let you know. And so I think that kind of connectivity to the bad things at all times is not good. Two, the pace of modern living is it's really hard and it's getting worse. And by that I mean, the statistics around we're all hit with somewhere between 5,000 and 20,000 messages a day. We all get so many hundreds of emails a day, so many texts a day, so many calls a day. We're all being asked to do more with less, both at work and at home, right? Everyone's trying to stretch the dollar further, stretch the time further, get more for less. And so that's really stressful. I think the bigger issue too is just how our brains are wired. And so the science behind like how the thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex works, and the amygdala, the emotional brain, is very interesting to me. In that, when the thinking brain works well, it's able to filter what's going on with the emotional brain. So you're able to think about things, be calm, cool, and collected in your response, and people are normal human beings. But the problem is when people flip out and lose it and the emotional brain takes over, that fight or flight syndrome, and people can flip their lid at work or at home. What happens is they become better. Science tells us we become better at doing things that we do often. Okay? And so if you're one of those people that kind of flip your lid over the course of time, you get better about going there, right? You actually develop those neural connections to flip out faster, right? You're like the Bionic Man, faster. And the science behind how we create neural connections, to me, is incredibly interesting. And I think it's one of the reasons that we're all addicted to our phones and to Facebook and to Twitter. And not that there's anything inherently wrong with any of those things. It's just our brains are wired such that we become really good at what we do most often. Okay? And so if you're a concert violinist or a pianist or an amazing rugby player or a footballer, and you can kick a goal without even thinking about it, or you can play a concerto and it just, the brain just works. It's because these individuals spend so much time where the brain just performs without even thinking. Those neural connections are so strong, they can just go there and perform in the moment. And the problem is most of us are not famous violinists or footballers, right? Most of us are stressed out business types. And what we train our brains to do is to be anxious, to be worried, to be depressed, to not sleep, to sit and worry about the past and worry about the future. And we actually strengthen those neural connections. We become really good at making ourselves unhappy. And so anytime we have a little break in the action, like, so let's say we're focused at work and we're developing some code, and we are focused in that moment. It's great. Then you have a break in the action, and it's kind of like what happens. The mind immediately goes to what you're good at: stress, anxiety, worry, regret, fear. And when that happens, what do? We reach for our phone, and how do I fill that time with something else? Because stress, anxiety, worry, and fear suck. I don't want to spend my time there. I'd rather spend my time looking at Facebook and like people's greatest hits, like for what are people eating today, or and so I think the one of the reasons that we're all so stressed is because we've become very good at training ourselves to be that way, right? And for me, mindfulness is sort of the antidote. It's why don't we train ourselves to be another way? So we talk to customers, big clients all the time, companies like Microsoft and eBay, University of North Carolina, and so forth. And we like to make the point, like everyone's training their brain all the time, right? That's what the science shows us. Why not be intentional about it? Why not train yourself to be calm, cool, and in the moment instead of distracted, angry, and unable to cope?
So, what are some of the developments that you've seen in this space that excite you the most?
So, a couple of different areas. I think one on the science and what's been going on with neural imaging is really exciting to me. And so, to think in the early 1980s, the very first study came out on the scientific benefits of mindfulness. And in 2016, they're coming out at a rate of 80 per month. That is exciting to me. To see old school and new school organizations getting interested in mindfulness. Companies like Google and Facebook and LinkedIn bringing this into their wellness programs to really help their employees is amazing. But likewise, seeing organizations like Walmart and Ford, Price Waterhouse, right? The kind of organizations that have been around for a very long time, bringing it in and also opening up to these practices. That's exciting to me. And personally, within our company, I'm excited about all of our programs. But the program that I'm probably most proud of and most excited about is just the one for teenagers. So to get to young adults early in life and give them life tools where they can have access to just more health and happiness for the rest of their life. That's really exciting to me. And I look back, I just think I wish I found this in my teens instead of in my early 40s.
That's it. I was just thinking that as you were saying that when I was a kid, if anything came up for me, and of course, like you don't know what it is when you're a child. You just think, you don't even think, why am I so stressed? You just kind of like feel it, but you're just told to get on with it. Oh, don't worry about it. Just kind of go out and do something else. But I'm really interested. I mean, is there anything that you can share behind the research that you've done into teens? Because you were mentioning that that you've done research into like what makes teens happy and what makes them anxious, and how they can go about, giving them tools that they can help themselves with. But yeah, I don't know, what were some of the things that you found out in your research behind teens?
Yeah. So we have on our site, our company is at will.com, and our teen product is at grow.will.com. And we have ebooks there. And anyone in your audience can go and grab our ebooks on the science behind mindfulness. And one of the things that was so concerning about the science for teens and the research that's been done primarily in schools is that teenagers share a lot in common with most other categories. And so, for example, if you compare what teens are experiencing with stress, anxiety, depression, pharmaceutical usage, and unfortunately suicide as well, and then you compare those statistics at that young age to categories like what's going on in the corporate world, what's going on in universities, what's going on in the military, what's going on in hospital systems, it's alarming that all of those categories share increases and all of these things that are really detrimental to health and performance. And at that young age, it was shocking to me to see that teens are suffering at the same rate as people in their 30s and 40s from things like stress, anxiety, and depression. So our ebooks there cover a lot of the science that's been done in schools, and the wonderful thing there is to see improvements in grades, drop in things like truancy and suspension, increases in reported happiness, even increases in performance for athletes, right, in terms of being involved with sports at the high school level and the college level. The the science that correlates to all of these improvements because of mindfulness is just wonderful. And as I say, your audience can grab our ebooks and check out, so that we have like bite-sized chunks to make these 50-page research documents one or two sentences, and that while the statistics of what's going on with teenagers is really alarming, I take a lot of comfort in what's going on in the space and products like Grow and the science behind mindfulness to help young adults.
Joe, my penultimate question is, what do you think is the most important human quality in the digital age, and how do we cultivate it?
For me, it really comes down to kindness, and within mindfulness, a lot of people will talk about empathy. They'll talk about compassion, and I think all of these are important. But the ability to be kind to ourselves, right, to give ourselves a break, to realize that things don't have to be perfect, right? That life is pretty good as it is, and if you trust that it's going to get better, it does. And then kindness to others, and particularly because we primarily service professionals. The way that people treat each other inside of organizations is not great these days, and a lot of organizations that we talk to have a culture that's all around faster, cheaper, just get it done. It's a very commanding culture that's driven by the requirements of business, right? But it doesn't have to be as rough as it is on the individual, right? And so kindness toward each other, opening up for teamwork, collaboration, fun, enjoyment as part of work, like to have that as an expected part of your work experience, I think is important, and that starts with kindness. And I think the best way to develop these practices, for me, it's been through mindfulness. And whether you're doing live training and you're getting together in a cafeteria or a conference room, or you find an organization locally to work with, to create community, I think that's fantastic. If you're using a digital product like Will, to get started, and even if you're starting with 1 minute a day, or our 1 minute meditations, and building yourself up to 3 minutes or 5 minutes a day, I think getting started is the best way to be more kind to yourself and to others. And the science would suggest being a more kind and compassionate individual also has the nice side effects of improving people's health, focus, performance, sleep, and so forth, right? And so it's just, you get that too.
Joe, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the interview. Where can people find out more about you and your work?
So thank you again so much for having us. The your audience can find us at will.com, WHIL.com. There you'll find our different products for adults, for teenagers, and for leaders with Search Inside Yourself. And then I'd also love to set up and just give everyone who's listening 60 days free to our adult and teen product, if you're open to that.
Thank you. That would be absolutely amazing. Thank
All
you.
right, great. So the way that would work is your audience can go to will.com/gift, GIFT, and we'll set up a promo code. Let's go with digital mindfulness, and that will give everyone 60 days to try out our products, and then you'll get the 7-day sampler to search inside yourself for leadership skills. And whether people subscribe or not, we have about 50 free sessions that are always free to anyone. And our mission is just to get the word out and help as many people as possible.
Oh, Joe, that's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm sure everyone will be really appreciative of that. But Joe Burton of Will.com, thank you so much for spending time with us, and thank you so much for the gift.
It's truly my pleasure. And Lawrence, thank you for what you're doing. I love the work, and I think this is important stuff. So thank you.